Thank you for attending today. I appreciate it. Hopefully we will have a really good presentation today. At least that's the plan. All right, so this evening for me, because it's 7 p.m. where I am, we're doing a Spooky for Beginners, Spooky Central on Plasma. That's what we're doing. Oops, click on the screen. Always helps. Okay. The goals that I'm trying to do in here and the skills, because I believe in skills as well, is I want to talk about what is a Spooky Central. We're going to have a skill of how do I hook all this stuff up with all these cables. I'm going to do a good presentation of how do I actually use this stuff. I have some pitfalls we're going to discuss, and then we're going to do Q&A as usual. Generally speaking, I don't do questions on these. It's just too hard. And we have over 200 people on this, and trying to keep track of that is very difficult. But the Q&A session, I will go through everything in the Q&A. I guarantee that, but it doesn't come till the end. So that's my plan. If you post something, Zara she may notice that you post something in the chat that I need to answer, and she can beat on me or whatever she's going to do. And if I need to do something in real time. But currently, that's my plan with this many people. Okay. Who am I? If you haven't attended any of my stuff before, my name is Michael Goss. I am I'm actually a computer person. I've been doing computers since actually 1979. I've been doing tech support stuff since 1974. That's who I am. I'm not a frequency practitioner. I'm not the person to talk to which frequency should I use for this or that or whatever. But I am really good at how do I do this stuff, and and how do I find things and that sort of stuff. That's my forte, and that's why I'm doing this. I've been a Spooky user since 2018. I have all this different Spooky equipment. I'm actually in my den at the moment, and where I have 13 XM generators, and I have in my living room is where my central plasma is, and I have an XM in there. And my bedroom is where my scaler is with actually with the GX, and the scaler has a GX on it as well. I respond well to email or my Telegram channel. I'm also one of the moderators in the Facebook Spooky2 Right for Life group, and we have 82,000 members there, and there's a number of really smart people there. It's a great place to go for what's going on in searches and all that sort of stuff. So I recommend, if you're not a member of that, you may want to consider it. Come on. Okay. It's important to me to tell you why I do the presentations. A lot of people today are buying the Spooky2 equipment because they want to take control of their health. They have a major problem like cancer, and a lot of these people have close to zero computer skills. I am pushing towards that. That's what I am doing here. I do very, very basic stuff, although I cover a lot of details as well, and hopefully you'll find that useful. But I talk to people all the time who have no idea how to download anything from the internet or that sort of stuff. Actually, I've been doing chats today with people. They need to buy a computer for the Spooky. What should they buy? I have no problem saying, here's a link to Amazon. This is a really good one. Or they send me a link and I'm going, no, well, you could buy that one. It's $800. It's a really nice computer, but it's about 10 times more than you need for Spooky. So, I try to do all that stuff. So we're going to go through all that stuff, specifically all these details for the Spooky Central and its associated peripherals tonight. That's what we're doing. And by the way, I'm a believer that the Spooky software isn't very complex. It isn't for me because I'm a tech person, but if it's all a question of how you use it. It's very busy. It looks like a lot. It's really pretty simple to use, and we're going to do that tonight. So that won't be a problem. You have to understand that the Spooky system grew up as an experimental system, and the people that maintain it and wrote it are not software developers, and so that adds to it. But trust me, I mean, we're going to go through things tonight. You're going to have about 15 mouse clicks, and you'll be running. I mean, it's really not that big a deal. It's sort of like, and one of the things I use, it's sort of like if you are doing cut and paste. If you know how to do cut and paste, it's really easy. If you have no idea how to do cut and paste, there's a lot of steps. That's sort of what we're talking about here. Okay. If you want a copy of the presentation, because this is a PowerPoint, the video will be available from Spooky, but if you want a copy of the PowerPoint, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to send it to you because I have links in it and that sort of stuff, which are a little more difficult if they're in a video. Okay, so what is the Spooky Central? It's the most powerful machine for killing pathogens that Spooky sells. Number one by far. Okay. It's an amplifier for the signals created by the generators. To give you a rough idea of power levels, the compared to the remote, contact mode, so if you with TENS pads, is about 15 times more powerful than a remote. Plasma, which we're going to be talking about tonight, is about 30 times as powerful as contact mode. So that gives you an idea. This is about 450 times more powerful than remote. So you actually have to be a little careful from that, because maybe you weren't doing Herxheimer stuff, which we'll talk about briefly in a while, but the central and the plasma can actually, you have to be careful how much you use it, because it can cause other issues like that. It won't hurt you, but it can make you feel bad. In red here, the plasma, the contact mode, and the PEMF. All those things are if you have internal electronics in your system, in your body, you need to check with your doctor before you use this stuff. You don't want to have, you don't want to be running electricity through your pacemaker. It's not a good idea, or that sort of stuff. So be cognizant of that. The Spooky Central and plasma can't be used by everyone, just most people. Okay, the first thing we're going to discuss tonight is install and connect. So you've ordered your Spooky Central, you've taken it out of the box, and now there's cables everywhere, literally. And there's all kinds of other things everywhere, because there's a lot of little pieces. And we're going to talk about them all. So we're going to do the basic stuff first, though. We're going to get the central and all that hooked up to your computer and make sure everything is working. So first we'll do a little inventory. That's what the Spooky Central looks like. It's about 14 inches wide, and it's about 9 or 10 inches deep, and it's about 6 inches high. I know, because I built a shelf on the wall where mine sits, because I do my plasma stuff in the living room. These are the two plasma tubes that you get. There's the Fanatron, which is the round tube, and there's the straight tube. And we'll talk in detail about those later. This is what they look like, however. And if you're going to do plasma, you'll have one or the other, or you have both. We'll talk about why you'd want one or the other or both later on. So in here, the PEMF coil is this little black, what I call lollipop down here. And this is pulse electromagnetic field, PEMF. That's what this is. And we'll talk about hooking it up into the central and other things you can do with it. These are TENS cables that you can hook directly into the central if they go here. This is a new device you haven't seen before. This is an ultrasonic wand, and that's so you can use ultrasonics to send frequencies into your body. And finally, this is the XN generator, the blue generator, which I actually prefer, and we'll talk about that later as well, but that's going to drive all this. The central acts as an amplifier to the generator. So without the generator, the central doesn't do much. It can't do any plasma. It'll do a few sort of things, but you really need to have a generator with it. Big time warning here. Never plug or unplug any accessory into the Spooky Central while it's powered on. The Spooky Central has got some fairly significant voltage in it. Let's see, I think that the high voltage stuff is around 3,000 or 4,000 volts. And plus it does some pulsing stuff on things. And so if you plug things into it, you can damage the Spooky Central. So one of the things you need to get in the habit of is this power switch, which is on the back, and it's lit up when it's turned on, and you'll feel it, you'll see where it is. You need to turn this switch off before you do anything with plugging in or putting in new peripherals or whatever you're going to do. It can stay on all the time when you're not using it. That's not a problem. But if you decide to unplug or plug something in, change the plasma tube or plug in the PEMF coil, whatever, you need to turn it off first. And don't forget to turn it back on. Okay. Now, the process of hooking up the central, and I have a video that's going to show all this, but we're going to go through it a couple times because it's always good to go through this so we remember it. First, on the back side is this power cable. It plugs in here, goes right under the power switch. It's a tight fit, which is real interesting. So work it in. I've actually helped people that they said, hey, my central is not working anymore. And it turned out that this cable had worked its way out. Keep that in mind. So if things aren't working, always make sure that the power switch is actually lighting up, because that's the other one I've helped is somebody put this in a switch socket once, a switch plug on the wall, and guess what? They turned the switch off and it didn't work anymore. So Watch for this little light here on here. When you turn it on, it glows red. Okay, so there's a bunch of cables come with this. They have these cables with what I call the green donut. That's this round thing that's wrapped in here. This is actually a filter. We'll talk about why it needs to be filtered later. But there's two of these. These are coaxial cables. They plug in here to the front of the generator. I'll show you where in a minute. And then excuse me, to the central, and they plug into the generator. So, like I said, the donut filters, and the donut filters actually are on the generator side, and you could plug them either way, but they go right next to the generator, and this plugs in here. All right, now, so here are the donut cables, like I said, and here's the blue generator, which I prefer. This is out one. It's got this red thing. It goes to the left, which is the input, I think. And I've got it in details later. Modulation is on the right, and the other one goes in here, goes to the out two, and then this donut cable is a USB, and we'll show that in a minute. That plugs into here and plugs into the computer. That's where that one goes. Now, if we've done this already, then you've made good progress to get everything hooked up, and we've only done a few cables. And obviously, there's a power supply that plugs into the generator that plugs in the wall. By the way, the power supply for the silver generator, the GX, and the blue generator, the XM, has the same plug on it, but they're not the same power supply. So be very careful about that if you have both. Actually, the power supply that plugs in for the GX has a big label on the back of it that says, hey, this is only for the GX. But some people don't read that. So make sure you're using the right one. Finally, for this purpose, we have the accessories. These nifty white cables, which go to your plasma tube, either the round one or the straight one. They plug in over there. What I want to make sure you know is notice the cables are going out this side. They're not crossing over here and all that. They should. Trust me, and we'll talk about that later. These need to come out the side and go to the tube. Don't keep them around other devices or other cables. It's a bad idea. All right, so we've gone through the step by step. So let's go take a look at the video. And this is about a 5-minute video. Share, advanced video file. This is it here. So we'll run through this. I'll probably make this little short video available elsewhere, but it'll be part of the presentation as well, because it comes in handy sometimes. You don't want to watch the whole hour and a half or whatever just to see this part. This is a demonstration video on how to hook up Spooky Central. In order to do this, you're going to need Spooky Central, which is in front of you. You're going to need at least one generator. I prefer the blue ones. And you'll need a computer. So the first thing we're going to do, get this out of the way, you have 3 of these nifty cables here. Don't worry about all the accessories like the PEMF cable and all that sort of stuff at this point. We're not going to talk about those in this. We want to get the basic stuff running. So you have 3 of these cables with these green donut looking things in. That's where we're going to start. So this one, if you'll notice, this is a B and C connector, and the other end is a B and C connector. Put that one there. This one is the same. It's got these 2 B and C connectors in it. These are B and C connectors. And then finally, we have this one. This one is a USB cable. So the end of it looks like a little box. We can see that. And the other is a flat thing that goes into the computer. We'll get back to that in a minute. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these cables here. So this is the BNC one with the green one in it, and this one has a blue one in it. It says it goes to out 2. This is the out 2 on your generator. So it goes in here, snaps half a turn. Notice the little green donut is close to here as opposed to out here. On this side goes to modulation, which is this one connector on the right. We'll put that in there. So that's done. The other cable, which is red, says goes to out 1. That's what it says. That goes to out 1 on your generator. Then turn it so it snaps. And this goes to input on central. one used to have a blue one that said modulation on it, but that fell off, and so I had to make my own. Okay, so that's hooked up. Now the last hookup we want to do of this, another one with a donut in it. This is a USB cable that goes to the computer. This goes in the back here of the Gen X, and then it's going to go hook into the computer into a USB port. Now, we're looking at the back of the Spooky Central. So what's really important back here is this little red switch here. And the reason it's so important, oh, that was good. The reason it's so important is before you hook anything up to the central, any peripherals or anything, you need to make sure it is turned off. You can damage the Spooky Central if you do things with it powered on. So the first thing we're going to need for this is we're going to need to do power. And that's what we have a power cable for. The power cable looks like a standard cable that's used for monitors and computers. And that goes in here. We're going to plug that in a minute. The next thing you need to do is these white wires here. The white wires go to your plasma tube. It doesn't matter whether it's round or straight, makes no difference. And they can go in either one of these jacks, doesn't matter. One goes in the top, push it all the way in. The other one goes in the bottom, all the way in. It's pretty important to make sure that those white cables come off that side of the generator and don't get near any other cables. It has to do with generator errors. This will cut down on the generator errors considerably if you don't have, if you hook them up this way so to keep the white wires away from everything else. The white wires that's where the high voltage is, and it generates a lot of RF that can interfere with your generators and cause problems. So we're going to turn this on so you can see what it looks like. The Spooky recommendation is for you to use an entirely different wall outlet to power the Spooky Central. That means don't put it in the same power strip or anything like that. I don't have any choice here, and I've run it that way, but I have far less problems if it's in a totally different outlet. Again, it has to do with the RF interference. So we can flip this on, and notice it glows red, an important thing to consider. I've seen situations where people thought their Spooky Central wasn't working correctly. It wasn't working at all. And the reason is this guy here actually fits pretty tight, and believe it or not, it can actually work its way out. So if you go to turn on your central, always make sure the red light comes on. Finally, we do need to hook up power into our XM generator. So we'll power that up in a minute. So then I will show you what this is going to look like on Spooky. Yeah. Go back to our presentation. And that is in, where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully it was basic enough for the people that are going crazy looking at all the cables at the moment. We'll talk about peripherals later. So what is this going to look like? That's our next question. So from here, we are going to go into the software. So the software, let me go into, there's a couple things we're going to show you in this, then I'm going to demonstrate it for you. Okay. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the generator and we're going to make sure it's a plasma. And I'm going to demonstrate that in a second. That's really important, and I'll show you all that stuff. And then we're going to test it. Testing is also really important. I've seen in the chat, I know somebody, it doesn't seem to be working. Well, the first thing you're going to do when you hook this thing up is you're going to do the plasma test. And the plasma test is really handy because it will, it'll actually test it. And yet it's going to flash. And we'll talk about why it wouldn't flash in just a little while. But that's why you have the plasma test. With the plasma test, it will flash. That's the whole purpose. So let's go into the plasma test, and it's going to start. Okay, let's look at that real quick. That's it. That I want to go into sharing, and I need to go to my screen. Even here's something. Oh, there we are. Here we are in our handy dandy Spooky2 screen. My control tab. This is actually a test machine, sorry. Um, so I have a Gen X, and 4 is a Gen X, and 5 is my blue generator. The first thing that you need to do is pick a generator this thing is going to be hooked up all to. Right click on the generator, which in this case is 5. It's going to say, is Spooky Central Plasma always connected to generator 5? Yes, the answer is yes. It doesn't have to be, but I would recommend that. Yes. Notice over here on the right side, if my picture's not playing, now this, instead of just the blue generator, it actually shows the Spooky Central. Well, that's kind of cute. Is that really a big deal? It is. And it is because the Spooky Central is sensitive to the waveforms that are sent to it and the amplitude of them. If you do this and you set it to where it's all there, then the Spooky2 software will not send the wrong waveforms to the Spooky Central. It's a nice insurance policy. Obviously, if you're choosing plasma presets, you don't have a problem. Occasionally, I'll forget and I'll send a remote one over there or whatever. I really don't have to worry about it because it's a plasma, it's going to make sure that I just cannot send the wrong waveform. So it's I think it's a really important thing to do. Okay, so where am I? Let me check on my stuff here. Okay, so that's how we did this. Now let's talk about testing. So if we go into presets here, so the presets tab, then we go into miscellaneous. So here I am miscellaneous. Then we go look at plasma. Down here, and you may have to scroll down on your machine, there's something called plasma test. So we're going to click on plasma test, it's in presets. We're going to go to the control tab. We're going to say we want to overwrite the generator. We're going to put it in generator 5 because that's where we put everything. So we put it in generator 5 and we do a start. And if you do this, your plasma tube, either one, is going to flash. That's its purpose in life. They know this is going to flash. It's set up to flash. And it's the easiest test to make sure that everything's working. Now, suppose that this flashes and your stuff didn't. Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. Some of the presets don't always flash. Maybe they'll be just dim and be on all the time. And by the way, the Spooky2 developers have a tendency to change that stuff once in a while. So, gee, when you ran it last month and then you upgraded the software, now it didn't flash and now it does, or vice versa. You know, if there's any doubt, go do a plasma test. If it's working, the rest of it's working. The other thing that I've seen is occasionally there are frequency combinations that are very dim or you can't even see them. That doesn't mean you're not getting them. It just means you can't see them. Again, when in doubt, run plasma test. If it flashes, everything's good. That's an important thing to consider. Let's see. So now where are we in my, I can't tell that. Go back to share. Figure out where we are. Okay, so we've done the testing, and like I said, it's pretty straightforward. All right, so let's talk about using the Spooky Central. I'm making a note here of what I'm doing. All right, so how do I use the Spooky Central? You know, I started this out talking about things are fairly simple, and I believe they are. So let's go take a look at that. So here we are in our Spooky software. And I'm going to stop my generator because I'm going to use it. Anytime you're going to load a preset, go find a generator first and stop it. The reason is if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to overwrite it and you're going to get confused and all that. So step one is always find the generator and hit stop on it. Now let's go find something to run. A lot of people, I know because I've helped a lot of them, a lot of people buy specifically this stuff because it's going to do cancer. I actually did. I have 2 presentations I did on using Cancer DB protocol that are out on my YouTube page. Contact me if you want any help with that, running it. So we look at cancer and DB, and that is David Bork. So in this case, we're going to use plasma. And the first thing you do when you're doing the cancer protocol in plasma is you're going to do a detox. That's this one, P01. That's where you start. So this is a plasma. In this case, David Bork, I don't know the details. He starts all the stuff with a P and there's a number. So we're going to select that right now. Then, of course, the next thing we're going to do is we do the control tab. And trust me, this will become second nature. overwrite the generator, click on the generator, and hit start. That's all you got to do. I mean, it's that easy. It's that simple to load things and run them. The hard stuff to find is, well, what should I do and all that sort of stuff. Now, to show you what else you can do, or as an example in this, we'll go back to home. We're going to go look at, let's go look at miscellaneous. And again, we'll go to plasma. And let's look at frozen shoulder. People have those. Frozen shoulder. We found it in here. And we're going to go to the control tab, overwrite the generator, click on the generator, and click start. As you can see, this isn't all that difficult to do. And we'll talk a little bit more about the other details. Right now, we're talking about software, though. So this is running just like that is. That's not a problem. It is that simple to do that. All right. So what if we want to do, what's next? What if we want to do share? Okay. So we've seen how to use the Spooky Central for some basic stuff. Okay. So I found a Plasma preset. I want to run it. Great. And what I wanted to show you is that, and I'll show you back in a minute when we go back to that. The David Book cancer stuff is piece, whatever. Everything else that's plasma actually has a parentheses P in it like this. Okay, that's the way they work. Now, what if this is the next thing you want to do? So we've done that. We've load and run a predefined preset. Fairly straightforward. Now, what if we want to do? Wait a minute. Sorry, I'm missing there it is. Okay, so what if we want to do a custom preset? Well, first you have to know what a custom preset is. So, Spooky. Okay, so we're going to use generator 5. We're going to stop it. What is a custom preset? A custom preset is I want to do something that's in mine. These that I've found in the programs tab. This was a mistake, apparently. Come on, system. There we go. So I want to run, maybe I want to some abdominal cramps and all that sort of stuff. So I know that I have programs. How do I do that? Again, we start at presets. In this case, we want a shell empty preset. My wife gave me this thing to use for this. So presets are sort of like recipes. And most of these, like the cancer ones or the other one we showed, not only they are the recipe, they're like that HelloFresh stuff that you can order in the United States, where they send you a box of food and recipes, and then you still get to make it all, but you have everything there. And that's what, for instance, the one that we just looked at, we looked at plasma and we looked at frozen shoulder. That's one of them. That's a recipe, and it has all the ingredients in it. All we had to do is put it in the oven, which is what we did. But in this case, we want to run something different. We want to run our own things. So consider programs as the ingredients, but now we need a recipe. That's what the shell MB presets are. These are presets that don't have the ingredients with them. They're just a recipe. So we're going to go into plasma. And in this case, we're going to use, and while there's a bunch of them in here, you're starting out, the only ones I use especially to begin with, is either entrainment and healing, that's for healing, or plasma advanced. That's what I use. In this case, we're going to use plasma advanced. Don't worry about the other ones. Someday you'll learn about those. Get the basics down first. We're going to use plasma advanced. Then I can go to programs. And then I can load by double clicking and double click and double click and double click. So I've loaded these things in here that's going to run an hour and 27 minutes. Obviously, my next step would be to go to the control tab, overwrite generator, load it in the generator, and run it. It's that simple. I've now gone through, we have 60,000 programs. I've found the ones I wanted to run it, and I'm putting them in the plasma. That's how I want to deliver them. It's that simple. However, having said that, there's another step that I like to do. So I went here to presets. I clicked on Plasma Advanced. This is something I recommend you think about. I went to programs. I added in my programs that I care about. I don't care that I have multiples in there. Doesn't make a difference to me. Okay? So I have these in here. Now, rather than loading them into the generator, what I always do is I go back to presets and I save it. That's what this is for. The reason I save it is I use my save stuff as a way to track what I've done and when I've done it and who I've done it to, as a matter of fact. And it makes it easier to when I'm running it to see what's running. So I come back here to the presets tab. I click on this guy, which is going to bring up this guy to save stuff. And so we're going to put this. If you notice, I have a bunch of different ones. I used to do these. For instance, I do things in Plasma. All my Plasma ones I put in there. I don't do that anymore. Actually, these are those have been around for a while, but I find that it's easier now. What I do is I go back here to user, and I now organize by people, because I have a bunch of people I'm doing stickers for and all kinds of other stuff, and this works pretty well. I have a whole bunch for my wife. And so, but do I have a test one in here? Well, I'm about to have a test. So I'm going to say new folder and test. So I can call it anything I want. And then we're going to double click and test. So I'm going to save this one that I'm creating. And so this one was, I've done actually what I put in for my naming. You need to have your own 2024, 1120. This is a Plasma, that, and this is abdomen, abdomen. Hey, how do you spell that? I don't care. So now we have this in here that I'm going to say, and I did it there, and admin is probably spelled wrong, but that's too bad. I do it that way so I can find it later. So if I go here, up here, we're still in presets. This guy goes to my user stuff. I have it in my user subdirectory, and I created it in test. And here it is. So I click on, click on that. Click on this. And I go to control, overwrite generator, put it in the generator, and now it says abdomen pain. Not spelled correctly, but it says it anyway. And it has, these are the programs in it, but I can see what it was at the time. I don't have to try to figure it out from here. One of the things I found some time ago, since I've had my Spooky for a long time, is I'd create something and for abdominal pain or for headaches or whatever, and I'd run it, work great. And then I'd go on to the next thing. And then 3 months from now, I have the same problem, but I have no idea what I put in it because there's 60,000 programs in there. That's when I started figuring out, oh, I need to save these and give them a date and whatever, so I can find them later. That was the whole point of it. And now that I'm doing stuff for some friends of mine, and relatives, it's good that I've organized them by name, because when I need to create more or whatever, or run something for them again, I can easily find it because it's organized by their name. So that's the way that one works. So now what if, and especially if you're on the cancer side of life, what if you're doing biofeedbacks? That's the third one I'm going to do. Again, we're going to go to presets, home, and then shell. This is a Plasma. I'm going to do the Plasma Advanced, I think, is the best one for killing personally. And a lot of people think that I could use Plasma Killing, but I'm going to use Plasma Advanced. Then I can go into programs, do a search for BFB. Here's all my biofeedbacks that are in there. We'll put hers in there. So now I put that one in, and maybe I want to put another one as well. No problem. They're in here. Again, I like to save them, and I will. I'll save this. It's going to be, remember to put it in test. This is going to be 2024. 2024. 1120. This is Plasma. And this is BFB life. Okay. So I've saved that. Again, I can click on here, users, test, and there it is. I can go over to the control tab, overwrite generator, put it in there and run it. That's how you do this. Okay. It's pretty straightforward. It really is. And it's a few mouse clicks, just like copy and paste is, but it's not a huge problem from that point of view. Hopefully that was clear enough for you. And we've gone through it 3 times. Again, it's just a few mouse clicks. It's not that difficult. I know it looks really involved, but it's really not from that point of view. So let's go back to my presentation. Okay. So I've done a custom and I did a biofeedback. So you see how to do all that stuff within the program here. Okay, one of my favorite things to discuss, and I spend a lot of time working on this in Facebook, is generator errors. Hopefully most of you won't see them, but some of you will. So a generator error literally means that the the frequencies that there's such a high powered frequency that's being done by the plasma, it gets into the generator and freezes it up. And it doesn't always happen, but it can, and that's why I want to cover it. So that's what those things are. And what happens, the way you recognize it, number one, is your spooky system freezes up. All the generators you have all freeze up because you have this generator and it's trying to recover from it. So this is what it looks like. The generator it'll be green with red writing on it, and then all the step numbers and all that won't be moving at all. And that means you've taken a generator out. And so it's not a permanent error. You don't have to worry about that, but they're really annoying. That's the best way to put it. So that's what they look like. What do you do about them? Okay. First thing you probably want to worry about is recovering from it. So what do you do if you have a generator? Well, the first thing that you do is you click on the utils pull down at the top of the screen and click rescan devices. What that looks like, I want to demonstrate that real quick. So here. So we're in this generator, not that it matters. Let me start it so it's green. I can't create a generator error with it. But here in the utils pull down, there's something that says rescan devices right here. You click on that, it'll scan for generators. It's not going to find any because of the test system. No, it's probably going to change this, which it did. Anytime you see this screen, that means it didn't find any generators. But what I'm doing, and anybody can do this, I can fake it out by saying utils emulate single GX and XM. That way it looks like I have a real system. That's the whole point of that. So that's the first thing you do. You do a rescan, and that'll solve a lot of the problems. It depends on why you got them in reality. So let me go back to my demonstration here. For people who don't have plasma, sometimes you get generator errors. And you get generators because the computer's having a hard time talking to the generator. And that could be for a whole lot of reasons. For instance, if you have a bad cable or a bad connection or that sort of stuff, I had a problem for a while where I have a USB hub that I had glued to the wall. It kept falling off the wall, and when it did, it would usually give me a generator error too, because it didn't like that. So even if you don't have a plasma, you can get those, and that's where you start with those things. You start with is everything making a good connection? You may want to get better USB cables. There's some debate on the quality sometimes of the cables we get, and we're going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. But sometimes, so if you're having, frankly, if you're having a lot of generator errors, especially if you don't have a plasma, you need to start with cables. So the first thing you do is try the utils pull down. Now, a lot of times you can't even get Spooky to respond to you. And the reason for that is because Windows is in this recovery mode trying to fix the generator error, and it's just sucking up all the resources. If you can't do it, you can't do it. So, but if you can, you do that first. Step 2. If that doesn't work, then what you do is turn off the power on the generator, literally. Wait 5 seconds to turn it back on. It's amazing how many times that'll fix stuff. And you're probably going to have to do the rescan devices after you do that to make sure it fixes the error. But that'll fix a lot of this. So that's step 2. If that doesn't work, so you've done one, you did one, it didn't work. You did 2, and then 1, then that didn't work. So now we're in step 3. If that doesn't work, what you need to do is unplug the USB cable on the generator and wait 5 seconds, plug it in, and then go back and do a rescan. See if that works. If that doesn't work, then it's reboot time. That's all you can do. It's time to reboot. One of the things that people miss, which is really interesting, has to do with step 2. The generator can get into this error condition where the only way to fix the air condition is turn it off and turn it back on. So you can reboot the system and it doesn't fix it. That's because you actually need to power on and power off and power on the generator because it got something hung up inside it. So you'd think all these other things would fix it, but they don't. So just keep that in mind. So that's how you recover from the software point of view. But the next slide gets even more interesting. How do you prevent the error? And some people have had, and I've helped a lot of people with these errors. So the first thing I recommend to everybody is I replace the USB cable from the computer to the generator that's hooked up to the plasma. There's a cable, which is a really good cable at at Amazon. I get this trip light one. It's very specific for that one because it has these ferrite chokes in it, which is the equivalent of those donuts in this thing. And literally it solves 95% of the problems I've had. If you read the documentation on the central and the plasma, they have all the stuff you need to be plugged into separate outlets. You need to stretch things out as much as possible and all that sort of stuff. And that generally that does help. It doesn't help everybody, by the way, but it usually does help. But one of the things I did when I was having generator errors, I decided to test this, and so I was getting generator errors, and I could reproduce them at will. And so then what I did is I moved my Spooky Central. I put it on the table where in between the computer and the and my XM generator. So there's my XM generator is right next to the high voltage side of the central. I literally did that. Then I put the straight tube on top of it. Then I replaced the cable. I replaced the cable and ran it, and it ran fine that way. I have a really high confidence in the cable. It hasn't fixed 100%, but it's about 95%. But I still would recommend you use a separate outlet for your central. That's the only other thing that tends to be. That's the next thing I tend to do. So, but I highly recommend just start out. I believe you should order this cable and replace it. That's my opinion, and that's what you hear from me if you have generators. Okay, so the next thing you need is make sure that the white high voltage wires, which I talked about, are not crossing each other and they're not anywhere near any of the other wires. That's where most of the RF stuff is coming from that gets into the wires and then gets fed back into the generator. So make sure they're not crossing each other, because crossing each other seems to make it worse, and they're not anywhere near anything else. Make sure the Spooky Central is plugged into a completely different outlet, the generator and computer. By the way, everything I have here, I've actually helped people with, and it solved their problems, every one of them. So I've seen these all myself. Keep the generator away from the Spooky Central. I don't think that's as critical with the USB cable I like, but it does make a difference. And then this is the last one, is if you're still having problems, you need to plug the USB cable for the generator directly into the computer, not to a USB hub. And some people, I don't have enough stuff for that. What you do is you move your mouse USB into the USB hub, because it doesn't care. But occasionally the USB hubs are the source of picking up the interference. And that's really ugly, because it can lock up other generators and lock up the computer and other stuff like that. So that can happen. But generally I've found if none of this other stuff works and you plug the USB cable directly into the computer, that usually that'll solve your problems with your hubs almost immediately. So that's a list of how you prevent the errors, I think. Yep, it is. Okay. Now, so that's how you prevent them. Again, I'm always open for questions, email, whatever, and if you need help working with you. By the way, one of the things that I do that got me started in this is I got a request. Somebody sent me an email, some woman, and she couldn't get her central to work. She had bought her central last fall. Yeah, last fall. And she couldn't get it to work. She just couldn't figure out how to hook it up, and she couldn't do it. And so she shoved it on a shelf. And I don't know about you, but from my point of view, the central is not an inexpensive piece of equipment. So she shoved it on the shelf, and she had breast cancer, and she bought something else which is much simpler to use, and she'd been using that for about 6 months. And she decided she really wanted to go back and use the central. Okay, and so I said, yeah, I'll give you a hand with that, and to hook it up and get it running. And so I made an appointment. We got together, and she had just got back from the doctor, and her latest blood work, and all her numbers were really bad for her breast cancer. So she was very distraught on the phone. Anyway, we spent an hour and a half literally on the phone, got everything hooked up, showed her how to use the whole 9 yards. And so I checked back within about 6 weeks, and she had been using it every day like she was supposed to, and had just been to the doctor again, and all her numbers were way down. And so one of the things that bothers me about that is that it is a personal problem for me, knowing that people have spent a lot of money on this and they can't get it to work. So if you need help getting it to work, you contact me, I'll help you get it to work. That's the way this works. I cannot stand the idea that you have this equipment that will help and you can't use it. That's actually how I started really doing this stuff and doing some presentations on it because of that situation. I don't like to see that. It really bothers me. All right. So we'll take care of errors. So let's talk about the Spooky Central accessories. I can't spell accessories apparently. Okay. All right. First, we have the Fanatron, the round tube. That's this guy right here. That's actually very similar to what Rife used. But it's a focus energy. Think about it. It does something the size of your fist. That's where, I mean, the energy is everywhere, but it focuses in that area. So if you're working on a specific area, it tends to be a better device. Also comes with a nice mesh cover, a black mesh cover, which reduces the light output by about 90%. So it's really nice if you're going to use this in bed from that point of view. So it's good for that. The straight tube, however, which is it's about 18 inches, 20 inches long. It delivers energy the entire length of it. So if you have a lot of tumors or whatever, or you have other areas or bone issues or whatever, it may be better for that. Frankly, if I could only get one of them, I'd probably have the straight tube. I think they're more versatile. They don't have quite as much energy in the focused area, but they still have energy there, and I can treat anything with that. That's my personal opinion. I have both. When I bought my Central, which was about a year ago now, when I bought my Central, I decided I'd spend the extra $100 or $150, whatever it was, and get both tubes in case I needed it. Okay. By the way, when I bought my Central because in reality, because my mother-in-law had cancer, and I live 1,200 miles away from her. I really couldn't do much for her except for remote mode. But what I decided is, my wife and I, we don't have any of those things. But I decided, if I got cancer, I don't want to be out ordering stuff from Spooky. I really don't. I had the money at the moment. I'll go buy it. And I use it all the time for other things anyway. So I didn't want to be in that position. That's the reason I bought it and when I bought it. Okay. So the Central has all these nifty accessories you can use with them, and you can use them all at the same time if you want to. And what they do is they enhance the plasma effectiveness is what they really do. However, even though it has contact mode and PEMF and all that, you still only use plasma presets with it. That's what you're doing. And we'll go through that in just a second. So essentially, like I said, it enhances the effectiveness. The PEMF coil that you hook, and this hooks into the Central rather than to the generator what we're used to. It's the same device, but it hooks directly into the Central with an adapter. It's got a lot more power when driven from the Spooky Central. And the Spooky Central also it puts a really short pulse down these things to help open up your cells. You can't feel it, but it does that, very short pulse. The TENS contacts also have the pulse. You can't feel it. Again, but the pulse opens up the cell walls so the plasma can get better cellular presentation. Again, you hook this into the Central and you run plasma presets with it. And finally, there's a new device, the ultrasonic wand, which we'll talk about in a minute. And it's a different form of delivery because you use ultrasonic. That it only works with the Spooky Central. So this is the PEMF coil. This is this little donut thing. I call it a black lollipop. That's what it looks like. And like with anything else, if you're going to use this, turn the power off to begin with. Then there's an adapter because these PEMF coils, they hook directly to the generator using that snap-on BNC thing, but there's an adapter so it can go in here where it says coil. That's what it says. So you plug that in, and there's this little on-off switch. If you're going to use it, you leave it on, and then you run a plasma preset, and it'll deliver the frequencies through the coil. The most effective way is using the plasma at the same time and using the coil in the same area or whatever where you're trying to treat. That's what you do, okay? But again, only use plasma presets. What about contact mode? Well, again, this for those of you who have Spookies, you're probably familiar with contact stuff. Same cable, same everything, except this nifty little adapter here that plugs in over here where it says contact. Again, the on-off switch is there. And again, you can use both of these at the same time for the most effective treatment if you're trying to do that. That's not a problem. Again, plasma presets. Ultrasonic wand. That's a little different. This is what this is. So our bodies are 70% water, and water conducts sound really well. And so this is an ultrasonic thing that uses ultrasonics to deliver the frequencies to you and that you need. Again, you can use it all at the same time. I've read somewhere recently that people are using this especially at night if they're doing cancer sweeps, and they'll put this somewhere between their against their legs or between their thighs or whatever to get the frequencies ultrasonic in at the same time they're doing plasma sweeps or whatever they're doing. So and there's, by the way, this at the end, that's a little plastic cap that protects it. Generally what you do is you take that off because it's the metal underneath and you really want the metal against the skin. One other thing is this high and low power switch. What I've seen on that is that high is a higher power and low is lower. And what it amounts to is on the high power, sometimes you can feel tingling, sort of like you do with TENS pads. And so if you don't like that, use the low power. Okay, now we're into Q&A, which is the fun part for me. So what I want to do is I want to go look at Q&A and we'll go try to answer these things. All right. So I do like the Q&A screens. I will look at the chat stuff eventually, but I'm going to go through the Q&A stuff first. Okay, so how do you run, first one here from Anonymous, how do you run the central on remote and still run other programs in contact mode on the central? Well, the central isn't really on remote. The central is hooked up to a generator. And so, but only one generator. And so you could be running contact mode from the central that while you're doing plasma, that's certainly a possibility. Or from your other generators, you could be running contact mode. But if you're going to run contact mode with the same frequencies, I would use the contact mode in the central to do that. I hope that answers your question. If not, answer again, ask it again, okay? Okay, done with that. All right, so now, where do I place the plasma ball or long tube for oral cancer? I put it right at, I literally put it right up or very close to my face, wherever that is. That's what I would do. One of the nice things about the plasma is you can put it anywhere in your body. That's not a problem. That the long tube, the straight tube does get a little hotter, so at least on the ends, you have to be a little more careful with that. But essentially, and I've done this. My wife has had a precancerous or whatever on her face, and I mean, we put the plasma ball essentially right next to it. And if it's too hot, then it's an inch away. That's not a problem. So that's how we handle that. Okay, and let's see what this one says. How to use the central without being plugged in the computer? This is a debatable issue. Theoretically, I'll start there. Theoretically, you can load programs into a GX and run the GX for the central. You must have a generator plugged into the central to run the central. Now, some practitioners say, no, you really can't do that offline. But I don't know. I really don't know. I know what this particular practitioner said, and I believe him, that the waveforms that are generated by the GX in offline mode aren't capable of doing what it is in online mode. One, the downside, an online versus offline means whether it's hooked up to a computer or not. The GX is a really nice box, and it has this. You don't have to be hooked to a computer, but there's a lot of limitations to that. And I don't know for sure how well it'll run the central if you don't have a computer. I always have my computer hooked up, so that's the best I can answer for that. It definitely has to be plugged into a generator, and frankly, I always have it plugged into a computer as well. The generator is plugged into a computer. I have not run my my plasma offline. In other words, not hooked up to a generator with plasma. Is there a program you'd recommend when friends come around and want to experience the central for an hour at a time? Depends what you want to do with the central. I mean, if you're talking about an actual treatment, I mean, you'd be treating whatever they want to do. If the central isn't like contact mode. That's not contact mode. If you have the right frequencies, you can hook them up and people feel like they're being electrocuted. At least that's the way I feel. I don't like that. I don't like the TENS sensation at all. But you can feel that. I don't know if that's what you're trying to do. The central doesn't do that. It doesn't. Most people can't feel it doing anything. So if that's what you're asking, it doesn't work that way. What I do to help my friends, I actually do holographic stickers and hand them out. That's a whole nother presentation, but so I don't know. I think you're asking, hey, you think they're going to feel it, and it really doesn't work that way, other than a little heat and that sort of stuff. But it doesn't make a difference from that point of view. I hope that answered your question. Okay, and let's see. My main question is, that's why I always get generators. Trying to use plasma. Yes. Read something with cables. Yes. I think I've covered the generators pretty well. If you don't understand that, send me an email. I will work with you and we will solve the generator errors problem. But the first thing you need to do is replace that cable. Number one, you've got to replace that cable. There's a 95% chance that'll fix all your generator errors. At least it has, in my experience with my stuff and with the probably 30 or 40 people that I've helped with generator errors. So, give that a shot. And, if you have questions, reach out to me privately. Okay, so what do we have there? Next, learn about Spooky2 plasma, learn breast cancer. Keen to learn how about using Spooky2 plasma to eliminate breast cancer. Any info would be good. I'm a herbalist and keen to learn how to use cancer killing herbs in conjunction with Spooky. I can't answer that question because I don't know what they are. If you have any knowledge of success in binding a herb, I actually don't. I'm not a practitioner. I can certainly give you a lot of information about the cancer DB protocol that's built into the Spooky software. And if you send me an email, we can talk about that. And I can, because I have a couple presentations on how to run it. But again, I'm not a practitioner, so it's not like I've treated 20 people with this and it cured them. That's not what I do. I translate technical stuff into language people can understand. But you might find I'm sure that I could probably provide you some information on how it works, and you can watch the videos and how to do it, and we could have a really good conversation about that. So I look forward to hearing from you, Sandy. Okay, let's see. Kiki. My wand does not illuminate anything over 2 megahertz. I've tested several times, so I'm going fine over 2 megahertz. So the wand, so that would be the straight tube. So, again, my personal view is that, so by illuminate, you mean it doesn't glow at all, is the way I'd read that. Number one, I'd run the plasma test. If the plasma test works, in my opinion, it works. If you have a preset that doesn't seem to be working or whatever, I would try the same programs with the entrainment preset and see if it does that. The different presets do different things with it. If you're not happy with any of that stuff, you need to contact customer support. There could be a problem with your bulb. I don't think so. And if you want to discuss it more, send me an email and we'll make a few suggestions. You can actually go through and you can actually take a canned preset, and there's a way to change the presets and keep the programs that are loaded in it. So you can actually change it. Actually, I use it to change delivery types. But you could also do that with, okay, this was built with a plasma killing preset. I want to try it with the entrainment one. So there's a way to do that. It's very simple, and you could try that and see if what it does then. But again, my view is if the plasma preset works, I think it's working. But also, and I don't have it here. You got this little white pen, is what it looks like. You had to put some batteries in it. It's a high voltage tester. It's one of the things I would do is if it wasn't glowing, you put that on the white wire and see if it lights up, because that indicates there's high voltage in there. Again, that just means there's high voltage in there. One of the things I find it's really helpful to do is talk to somebody like me who has a plasma and say, here's what I'm running, and I'll go try it on mine. And if it glows, I can tell you, hey, it worked on mine. That's the advantage of Facebook and having friends with the same equipment and that sort of stuff. But that's another technique that I've used with other people, and let's see what it does. Because hopefully it works the same on both of ours and put your fears to rest. Okay, Jeremy. What's the best way to determine what plasma settings to use for healing modalities? I always use the entrainment one. It's aimed at that. I believe the entrainment and the advanced plasma represent the the uh, the presets that are most recommended by John White and most of the technical people. There's some other odd ones out there that depending on what the notes say and what other people say, that they're based on older technology and older research. And so I always use the entrainment one for healing, and I always use the advanced for killing. That's what I do. And so whether the other ones do any better, I can't tell you one that way or the other. One of the downsides, if you haven't figured out, of Spooky is there is no, oh, use this and it fixes it every time. Or we have this study and this fixed it 82% of the time. This one was 14% of the time. There isn't any of that. And so my general view is I like those particular presets. And if whatever I'm trying to solve doesn't work, it's because I'm not using the right frequencies. It's not because I'm using the wrong preset. That's my personal opinion. Hopefully that answers the question. Okay, SS of SS. Let's see. The protocols for severe illness recommend 4 generators. Yes, they do. How do you plug them all into the central? You don't. So what happens is that, like those things, you'll have the plasma on the central, and then your other, and they'll take one of your generators. Your other 3 generators, you're running native, so you're running remote usually on those. And so anything you're not running remote, you'd run as an attachment and accessory on the central. So most of that sort of stuff, like the cancer stuff, you're doing the plasma in the central for stuff, and everything else you're running in remote on the other generators. And they're all plugged into the same computer through a USB hub. So I think that answers your question. I hope. Okay, Jeremy. I have 6 generators connected to Spooky2. Multi-USB hub, yeah, it's protocols connecting, programming, independently with scalar device. Do I have to switch off the Spooky software to connect to? Nope, you don't. Okay, so first thing, anytime you want to add or even take away a generator from your computer, all you have to do is plug it in or unplug it. You plug it in, you do a utils rescan, it'll find it, it'll show up in the list. If you want to unplug it, you can just unplug it and don't worry about it. Although make sure it's stopped when you do that. Otherwise, you'll get a generator error. And generally, there's a whole bunch of stuff on how to load programs into a GX generator so you can run them offline. If you do some searches in YouTube, there's good explanations there how to do that. I think that's what you're asking. So, like I said, for the most part, for plugging them in and unplugging them, make sure they're stopped before you unplug them, and you can just plug them into your USB hub at any time, do a rescan, and they'll show up. So you don't have to worry about powering off anything or any of that jazz. Not with the current hardware. It works fine. So that should take care of that problem, I hope. Let's see. Sherry Wilcox. I have a central, different element jump. I'm not jumping around. Oh, that's a fun one. Okay, so I have my central in a different outlet than my generator, but my computer starts jumping around when I run the plasma. I have a hard time trying to get my mouse to work to stop the program. How do I stop this from happening, or is it normal? That can be normal. The tricky part is that the plasma can not only interfere with the generators, it can interfere with your computer. So the trick to that is not have the computer anywhere near the plasma bulb. That should take care of the problem. When my wife was using the plasma on our couch, and I was sitting next to her, and my computer was sitting next to me. When the plasma was running, the touchpad on it would just not work with a crap. Took me a long time to figure out what that was. And sometimes she has problems with her iPad. It gets jumpy, and that's the reason. That your computer is just too close to the plasma bulb, in my opinion. So you may want to try moving it away or that sort of stuff. That's what I would do. And obviously, you can, if you're using the plasma bulb and you want to pause the generator, you can put the plasma bulb on something else, then go to the generator and hit pause or whatever you want to do. Kiki again. I am on my 3rd go-round for Cancer DB protocol for your last seminar. Well, thank you for attending. Is this common? You seen, heard anyone repeating the protocol more than 3 times. Oh, yes, definitely. So the cancer protocol, there's 2 phases to it. For you guys who don't know, there's the phase one. Phase one is the detox phase. Phase 2 is the actual treatment phase. And so what happens is if you have a plasma, the detox phase is about 10 days. So you go through all the stuff. After that, then there's about a 10 or 12-day routine you go through, and you repeat that until you are cancer free. And that can take months, or can take a long, long time. So don't worry about it. That's the way it was intended to do that. So just keep going through it until you're cancer free. That's my opinion. If you're having other issues, or if you don't feel it's working, my suggestion is to contact a practitioner and set up a discussion with them. They may have some other ideas. If you want to be more specific than that, please send me an email and we can talk about it. Maybe you're doing something wrong, although you've only been through it 3 times. 3 times is nothing, in my opinion. It is nothing. It's not, oh yeah, I'm going to run this for 20 days and voila, I'm cancer free. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. So feel free to email me and we will see what we can do to figure out what's going on if you have questions. Anonymous, does Spooky2 Central fix Lyme? Yes, there's actually a Lyme protocol. And the plasma is the best way to do it because Lyme is really difficult. But I'll tell you, it takes a long time. Kirsten Martin, is that her name? I can't. Kirsten had Lyme, but it took her 2 years to get rid of it. But she got rid of it. And she was running like 3 or 4 generators constantly to get rid of it. But she did get rid of it. But it takes a long time to get rid of Lyme. So keep that in mind. Anonymous. Oh, I fixed that. Done. Sorry. Carlos, what does the mesh cover for the Fontron look like? Well, it looks like a little black bag that's open on both ends. And so you slide the white wire through the one end and get it to where it covers the tube. Then it has drawstrings on it, and you draw this down so it can't just slide off. That's what it looks like. You probably have one and you didn't realize what it was. And by the way, there isn't one for the long tube. The straight tube is a lot hotter. You don't cover it with anything. So if you're using in your bedroom at night, it's going to be bright. That's the way it is. It's sort of you sort of need to get an eye mask for that because there's no way to make it work better. Okay, so I have a friend with debilitating migraines. Would plasma work for him? She's a scalar. Interesting question. The plasma scalar is 2 very different devices. The scalar is really good for healing. Okay, it's a lot slower. Having said that, I don't, and I've never used the plasma for migraines. I would believe it would work very well. Actually, what I've used for migraines is holographic stickers, which I really like. And so you may want to think about that. But I would try personally, I'd probably try the plasma if you have it. I like the scalar. But the scalar is actually number 3 on my list of, if I'm going to buy stuff and you don't have anything, the scalar would be number 3 on the list. It's my personal opinion. It's a much slower process. I think that the plasma and its accessories are the most effective. Doing the stuff without the plasma, so you're just using the generators, is number 2. And then I find that scalar is number 3 on that list. That's my personal opinion. So that's what I would do actually, and I'd be making them. And I've actually helped people with migraines, and we use holographic stickers, which cost $10 for 1,000 of them from Amazon, and you can make them with any generator with a remote. Again, reach out to me if you need more details on that. Okay, please tell me your mother-in-law. No, my mother-in-law, since she lived, oh, sorry. Please tell me, did your mother-in-law cure using plasma? She lives 1,200 miles away from me. She had gone through her treatments. Well, plasma her cancer came back once, and it's gone at this moment. The only thing I managed to do for her, I was up visiting her because there's just, I only saw her for a few days because we don't go to Arizona very often. And what I did for her is she just finished everything, and she had throat cancer, and part of that is they do chemo and radiation, and the radiation is ugly on throat cancer. I mean, essentially what you get is 3rd-degree burns on the inside of your esophagus. That's what you get. And by the way, after they stop it, it gets worse for the next 2 weeks. So she had just ended it and it was super painful. She was taking tramadol constantly for it. And so I was there. So I travel with a lot of my spooky stuff, but not with my plasma. But I had stuff with me. And so I looked it up and yes, there's a radiation burns frequency in programs. So I put those on a holographic sticker. And I said, here, put these on, but here's the deal. I'll come back tomorrow. You have to tell me whether it works or not. Don't worry about hurting my feelings. I just want to know. And so I did that. And she said that she put it on after a couple hours. It seemed to help. And the next day, she didn't have to take tramadol anymore. That's the most I can tell you about treating cancer with it. And so, I mean, her cancer was treated by the conventional stuff. I like the holographic stickers because it really helped with the pain. But I didn't actually treat her cancer with it. I actually have a son-in-law who has cancer, and I wanted to treat him. He's also in the same area, but he wouldn't even give me his fingernails to do it. No, that's hocus pocus. Okay, well, it's not like it's going to cost you anything, but that's what happens. Okay, Ahmed, let's see, regarding U.S. Oh, this is the ultrasonic. Should I remove the cup before using? You don't need gel on the metal. Not with this one. You could, because there's a special gel that uses ultrasonic. You can use it. You really don't need it for this. You're not going to, a lot of ultrasonic, you're really moving around a lot. This you're supposed to move around a little bit. It's not quite the same. If you want, you can use that. But yes, you should remove the cap because you need the metal against your skin. Alan. Now we have an explosion of, hey, that's good, Alan. I don't know what you're talking about. So hopefully, if you didn't complete that, ask it again. Okay, done. Frank, how do you get the frequent sets to repeat? Oh, in the programs tab, when you add the programs in, and there is there's a repeat. Let's see, what's that? Let's do it. That is here. Programs. Down here, there's a repeat sequence and a repeat chain. Generally, I mean, if you have a single chain, you can say, yeah, I want to repeat this 3 times. And if it's like in this case, it's a 30-minute, they'd go for 90 minutes. Repeat sequence does the same thing, but it does it for this program set. Obviously, if you only have one preset, they both do the same thing. So yeah, you could change this to 3, for instance, like that. And notice this went to 1 hour and 30 minutes because now it's going to run 3 times. That should answer that question. Let's go back to okay. All right, Frank, so that we answered that question. Shirley, the blue generator is only in front. This is Shirley. Could you please tell me of the blue generator has the donut magnet in the front 2 cables and the one in the donut in the back plugged in? Yes, that's that. The donuts should be right next to the generator. So they're right next to the coax cables, the out 1 and out 2, and right next to the USB connection on the generator itself. I think that answers that question. But again, I would replace the I'd replace the USB one. That's my personal opinion. If you haven't ordered it, you should. Okay. Jenny, I'm going to be using the central for a lady who has shingles on one side of her face and one eye. Where do I place the plasma tube? How far away from her? And how long would I run the program for her? Which would be the best tube to use? Also for tinnitus, where would I place the plasma? I mean, for either one of those, I'd place it next to the area that you're trying to do. That's what I would do for that. I would also, frankly, I'd probably use the PEMF coil as well, and you can always put that on the other side of their head because it has a penetration of about 6 inches. So you can use those together, and that's all safe above the shoulders. Obviously, you couldn't do that with TENS cables, TENS pads, because you're not supposed to use those above the shoulders. But the PEMF, you can. That's not a problem. I don't know if I'd use the ultrasonic for that, but that's what I would do. I'd just put them on one side of the face. Now, if you're talking about she has shingles on one side of her face and the eye is on the other side, I'm not sure. I would assume they'd be on the same side. Like I said, I'd use the plasma right there, and I'd probably use the PEMF as well. Okay, Claudia, can you run a plasma or bulb on central with other people in the room without effect? Well, yes and no. That's well, yes and no. So what it amounts to is that the plasma has what's called near field, which is generally within 6 to 8 inches, and that's where most of the power is. Then there's far field, which is anything like within the room sort of stuff is far field. So they would be impacted if they're in the same room, but it depends on what you're running. I mean, if you're running stuff to kill cancer and they don't have cancer, don't worry about it. If you're running stuff that does detox, they may get detoxed at the same time, which means they could have Herx reactions. For the most part, you don't worry about it. I mean, but if you are worried about it, then have them outside the room. I have read very lately that about people who had that problem. These are practitioners, and they have to be very careful how much exposure they get, especially in the detox stuff, because that affects everybody. And or killing stuff. But on the other hand, I've talked to other practitioners who do this stuff all the time, and they feel that there's no problem with that. So I think you have to be careful, but for the most part, I wouldn't worry about it. Sherry, let's see. Can you sleep with running all night to get this time limit? Nope. Lots of people sleep with the plasma running all night because they run sweeps and stuff. So sweeps are going to hit every frequency from here to here, every one of them. And because there's a lot of frequencies, that takes 6 to 8 hours to run. The easiest way to do that is when you're asleep. So it's time. And so that a lot of people sleep with it at night. Now, your second part is, can we run the program in a lot less time? No, I would not. You can. I wouldn't recommend it. My opinion of the presets that we have in Spooky is that that people a lot smarter than me set these things up. That's what I think. That David Bork was a genius in this, just like Jeff is. Like a lot of people who wrote these things, I think John White knows what he's doing. If they wrote something and it's set up to run 4.5 hours, I think you should run it for 4.5 hours. My opinion. There are ways you can make it run for 2 hours if that's what you want to do, and you can certainly do that because you can tweak almost anything in Spooky. Is it a good idea? I wouldn't recommend it because I think they're a lot smarter than me. So, but that's up to you. So that's okay. So yes, and you're 30 times stronger. But all that's included in the preset. That's already taken consideration. It's that it's a lot more powerful. So I'm loading something for cancer, and it's a plasma preset, and it runs for this amount of time. They've already considered how powerful plasma is. Okay, Ken Harris, please define. Well, it's tough to define because I don't know what you want me to define. So you might want to ask that again. Alan. Oh, okay. Well, this is the explosion one. Now we have an explosion of turbo cancer caused by jazz. Possibly. Can plasma help? As I've been reading, it's not the same as usual cancers. Also with over clots, because the plasma get rid of it. Spooky does have programs and presets built in to help with the jab and the stuff with the jab. So yes, I believe it can help with that. I don't know specifics to give you, but yes, it's all built in there. And what you can't find, you can usually ask on Facebook, and it's in there. But in 21, the Spooky people put a bunch of stuff in having to do with COVID. And then by 22, they're putting stuff in for the jab and all that sort of stuff. So yes, I believe that can be handled in there. Please define GX. Okay. There's two types of generators. There's a silver generator, and that's a GX generator. The silver generator costs a lot more, but it has two generators in it. It's not just a single one. But its claim to fame is it does a really good job of biofeedback. So it'll do biofeedback as well. Then there's the blue generators. The blue generators are the XM generators. It's a single generator. It hasn't been around. It's been around a lot longer, but it's really good for treating, and they both work the same for treatments. But the blue generator, there's ways to run biofeedback with it, but it takes a long, long time. So there's those downsides. I like the blue generators because they cost literally a blue generator kit costs $166. Right, a GX kit, which was just with the remote kit, so it comes with a remote and a boost, costs I think $700. I can buy a lot of blue generators for that. So that's why my recommendation is get a silver generator because you can do biofeedback. And then as you want to expand, just buy blue generators, which is why I have 13 blue generators here in my den. That's the reason. Hopefully that answered that question. Yeah. Muriel, is there a tech person who helps software issues on new Windows PC? Everything's a challenge on phone for an hour. Tries to take the best buy. Yes. Geek Squad was told they could not help, saying, "Hey, contact developer. Send me an email and we'll get together and I'll help you figure this stuff out." They said the problem with software. Yeah, it's not. Software works fine. Don't worry about that. Inspection says yeah. You can use almost anything. Actually, I've run Spooky. The first few weeks I had my Central, I had a really old crappy XP laptop run here. I ran it on that. Runs fine. So not a problem. Send me an email. I'll help you get the front end. It's not a big deal. I reached out support site. No available. Answer live. I don't know when you reached out. Hang on a second. Let me look things up. If you go to spooky2.com, they have a live chat. And the live chat is during China hours, okay? And I have in here what those hours are, if I can find it. But generally, they're pretty good. If you leave a message, that they're pretty good about answering that within the next day or the day after. If they don't, then you should go back and ask again. But it's always nice. There it is. The online chat service is it is actually Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. But that is in Shanghai. Okay. So for me, that's 14 hours ahead of me. So you have to do the math and you can look it up and figure out what time it is. But they're supposedly available from Monday to Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. So that's the easiest way to get a hold of them. That's what I've sort of done. All right. And keep in mind, you can always ask questions on Facebook in the Life for Life group. Can you kill mites or insects with the plasma in a large area room? How far does the plasma room? Well, looks like that's being answered by Zara. Good. I won't answer that then. So, this is Ann, how do you hook up one generator to another into another? Oh, what that is each generator has a USB cable and you plug that into a USB hub and the hub is plugged into a single port on your computer. That way you can hook up a whole bunch of them on one computer. Hopefully that answered that question. Andrew, I run a BFB with a scaler. It's recommended to run the results on plasma. No, I mean, you can run it on anything. I mean, it's a biofeedback. So when you get biofeedback results, you can run them on whatever you want. My personal opinion is running it on plasma, that's the most powerful device. And biofeedback is aimed at finding pathogens. So you want to kill them. So you always use a killing preset with biofeedback. You certainly could use that biofeedback. You could do it in the scaler if you wanted to, but the scaler is a healing machine. It'll kill them, but it'll take a long time. So best results. That's what I would do. I would certainly, if you have a plasma, I'd run the results on the plasma. I'd build a preset for that and run it on the plasma. Orlean, hopefully I pronounced that right. How long can you safely in the central at one time your sense of energy? That varies from person to person, Arlene. My wife has several things she's working on. She'll run the plasma for 2+ hours in the morning, and that's not a problem for her. Other people are different. You know, some people may only be able to do it for a short amount of time. It depends on you. You know, see what your reactions are and go from there. I mean, if you have 2 hours worth of program you want to run, and after 30 minutes, it's like, oh, this is too much. Pause it, take a break, and come back and do it and finish it up later. That would be my recommendation. Because you can't change amplitude and all that in plasma. It's fixed. Marilyn, I know everyone is different. How many treatments might we be looking for prostate cancer? Length of session before many people you have worked with and have seen results. Okay, first, I'm not a practitioner, so I haven't worked with anybody on prostate cancer. And there's no fixed amount to this. There really isn't. I believe that the that you'll get the best results doing the prostate cancer stuff and actually using the cancer protocol for prostate cancer with the plasma. That's what I think based on my reading. But like I said, I'm not a practitioner, so I haven't worked with anybody on that. I don't have an answer for that. Unfortunately, that's the best I can do. You're really talking to practitioners, and every one of them is different. But and if you want some guidance on that, send me an email and I'll see what I can help you with on that. But again, I can't answer the question directly. Okay. Is there an effectiveness difference power running TransPad BFB on GX Pro or on Spence? Yes, I believe it'd be more effective to run TENS pads with a BFB on the Spooky Central. If you're gonna do TENS stuff, contact mode, the Spooky Central has it has a similar amplitude, but it has this nifty spike in it. But again, I would be running that with the plasma as well. I personally don't see a whole lot of big time advantage to just running, if you're going to run the central, not running the plasma. That's my personal opinion. I'd run them at the same time. Shirley, do you have any advice on the wearable being sold by Spooky? I suffer from autoimmune vertigo, or business or some hypothermia help. I don't have any advice on it. I've not used that. I can't remember what it's called, but I don't have one. I know somebody who has one, but I don't know how well it was working for him. So I really can't answer that. There is a Facebook group for them, I think. I'd go search on that in Facebook. And there's also there's a success stories on Facebook as well that you might find some information on. That's the best I can offer for that. Sorry. Anonymous, does the central generator run scalar? No. Okay. The central is a separate box from the generator. So there's the Spooky Central, and then there's a GX or a XM generator, all right? And the generator itself, you can hook up to a scalar, but that has nothing to do with the Spooky Central. Then you're running the scalar from that generator. And so, there's a digitizer, that's an option for the scalar. That's a scalar digitizer. I think that's what you're asking, unless you're asking for the sample digitizer, which is a whole different thing. So you may want to rephrase the question and ask it again. I'm not sure I answered your question on that. But essentially, the generators you need them either way, and they're separate from the central and separate from the scalar. Myrtle, can you explain the process you referred to in the previous question? How to add programs from one preset to another preset, move the ingredients from the recipe. No, that's beyond what I want to cover here. If you'll send me an email, I have a video that explains it that I'll send it to. It might be on my. I'm in the middle of moving things to my page, YouTube page, and I don't know if I've done that one yet. You could look there first. If you don't find it, then let me know and I'll move it there. But yeah, it's pretty easy to do. It's a great way to convert. It doesn't convert David Halliday stuff with the beans though, because he does things different. Let's see. So if I get, sorry, this is Melissa. If I get a generator lockup and rooted, how do I restart the program? Oh, that's easy. So once everything's turned back on and running, all you have to do is go into the global pull down at the top of the screen, and there's a resume. Click on that, and it'll resume all the generators where they were, because Spooky keeps track of where is in every generator it's running, and just click on that and it'll take off. So that's a simple way to do it. Luella, did you say you need a short adapter? All the adapter cords come with it. You should have gotten 2 adapter cords when you got your central kit. There's a short one and there's a long one, and they seem to be interchangeable, and therefore the PEMF coil, and the other one is for the TENS cable. The ultrasonic has its own plug-in port and doesn't need an adapter. Okay, Victoria, how many hands required to use when using the Fanatron straight plasma? How to use the plasma with the other accessories? Okay, so how many hands required to use? I mean, I just lay the tube against wherever I'm going to treat it. I mean, that's what I do. So it doesn't require any hands for that. I don't usually hold it, even if I have I'll lean against it or whatever else I'm going to do for that. Other accessories, depends on where you're using them. I mean, you can paste them against your skin. You can use an ace bandage and hold them in place. My wife is doing this stuff. What's she doing at the moment? I forget what she's treating, but we're using the PEMF coil on her as well. And so she has a headband that holds it in place. Oh, that's what it is. She has a retina problem. And so she's using the PEMF coil up here on her head, and she's using a headband to hold that in place. Catherine, I was wondering about the presenter email address to request information about the Cancer DB Yes, that is Spooky Tech Help. That's Spooky, TECHHELP at gmail.com. That is my spooky email address that I've been using, that I've been moving to. Okay, so that's what that is. And yes, and it's also on my YouTube page. The presentations are out there. So you can go out to the YouTube page, which is youtube.com/@spooky.com, I think. And there's a bunch of them out there, and they're out there. And there's some handouts for it. Again, those are described in the description for it of where to get the handouts. One of the things that I don't like about the DB protocol is it's easy to get lost. So I actually have, okay, on day one, you're doing this, and put the date in when you did it, that sort of stuff. That way you can keep track. Tom, is there any problem covering the plasma with a blanket? Yes, don't do it. You shouldn't cover these things with anything. The only thing you can put on the Thanatron is the mesh cover. You can do that. Don't cover either one up. They get too hot, especially the straight tube. They have to stay above the covers. So unfortunately that's the way it is. Tom, is plasma detox better than a train program? Well, you're going to run the train program on the plasma. So there is a plasma version of detox. It's a lot more powerful, which is why you only run it for a few hours a day, as opposed to remote where we run 24/7. Also, if you were to look at the detox part of cancer, the detox part of cancer, it takes more days if you don't have a plasma, even though you're doing it remote. So the plasma detox is a lot more powerful than the remote detox. Deborah, if there are 4 generators working at the same time, please explain the duties of each generator running at the same time. Generally, what happens is when you're using multiple generators on the same person, there's a couple things people do. If you're running the same programs, which you may be, like in the case of cancer, what you do with that is you're going to end up starting each generator 5 minutes apart. You don't want the generators running the same frequency simultaneously, is the idea. So that's one thing that is done. That's the way the cancer protocol is done. On the other hand, suppose you have somebody who's really sick. Well, you might be running, actually, you probably will be running some sort of a detox maintenance on one generator, and something for pain on another generator, and something for cancer on another generator, or whatever. So that's the way multiple generators are done. So it all depends on what you're trying to do. Anonymous, does the Gen X have better shielding than the XM generator? I get generators when I use the XM Essential. Yes, it tends to. The question, the chances are you'll get less, at least in my experience and others, you'll have less problems and get less errors using the GX, the silver generator. It seems to have better shielding. Having said that, I much prefer using the XM generator because I leave it connected up all the time, and the GX, I have a tendency to, well, I'm going to do BFB on it, I'm going to do this on it, and so I do more changing out of that, and I don't want to do that. And that's why, that's one of the reasons I switched to that USB cable, because I don't get generator errors anymore if I'm using that. So the blue generator just sits in the corner, and it's hooked up to the central, and it's just one unit as far as I'm concerned. But yes, the tendency is to have fewer problems using the Gen X, which is the silver generator. Another anonymous. How do we reach out to Michael? That's my spookytechhelp@gmail.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me. And like I said, I'll answer within a day. So that is spookytechhelp@gmail.com. And it's somewhere in one of these things here. Okay, so where were we? So done with that one. James, shouldn't we put a Faraday shield tape around the plasma wire to reduce interference? Well, that's an interesting idea. I've never tried that. You could, and that would probably help some, but I think it's kind of overkill. I don't think you really need to do that. If you decide to try it, drop me an email and tell me if you had problems before and you do that, it works. I'd love to hear about it. But because I've never tried to do that stuff, so I don't know how well it would work. I don't know how it would affect the flexibility of the wire. I just don't know. But if you decide to try it, let me know how it works out because I'd like to know. What happens on Facebook, by the way, is I'm the go-to guy for generator errors. Kirsten and the people that have been answering questions a lot longer, they tend to refer to me and they refer all the hardware questions to me because of my IT background and my hardware background. Okay, question from Sherry. Do you use holographic stickers for embedding nails for remote programs? No, what I do with the holographic stickers, I put them in remote, then I imprint them with the frequencies. And then I take them out and I stick them on whatever hurts or whatever needs to be worked on. I mean, that's what I do. So it's not, I don't embed nails. It's not that kind of sticker. These are stick on, where are they? I had some here somewhere. Oh, they're there. I get a roll of them like this from Amazon, 1,000 of them for less than $10. And so I put 4 of them into a remote with nothing else in there, run a bunch of frequencies into it for usually a couple hours, and I use those I've used them for all kinds of stuff. My secretary at the HOA has a breast cyst, which is super painful. I made stickers for it quit hurting completely. So I really like them. They're great to do. If you have questions, send me an email and we'll hook you up with some answers for that. Roz, I just tried to run my plasma just now after listening to you. I made sure my plasma cord wasn't crossing over. I separated the cords and tried to run plasma one time, and the plasma didn't turn off. I assume it took an error because that's one of the things that will happen. Is one of the things you notice is you're running this thing and it's not flashing anymore. It's just on solid. And if you look at the control tab, you'll see that it's in an error. To me, that sounds like it's taken a generator error. So there's a lot of different things, and I can't go through all this here. Reach out to me via email and I'll help you figure out what's wrong. But it sounds like, like I said, if you go look at the control tab, it's probably going to be green with red writing on it. And then you have to go through the stuff of actually, of trying to do a refresh and see if you can fix it that way. Definitely, if that doesn't work, turn the generator off and then back on, and that will turn the plasma off, by the way. That's the best I can offer at this time, Roz. Okay, Deborah, can you use the PEMF on the generator X above the shoulders? Yes, you can use the PEMF coil anywhere as long as you don't have any internal electronics. So if you are like the Terminator, I wouldn't use it. But yeah, it's yes, the PEMF you can use anywhere. So, and I have. Okay, Ray, I have 3-lead pacemaker. I can't answer that, by the way. I have a 3-lead pacemaker. Can I use the central plasma? You're going to have to ask the manufacturer or your doctor of whether you can do that. I cannot answer it. I believe that some things you are safe to use with this, but I don't know what they are. That's a question for them. Sorry, it's the best I can do for you. Jamie, are presets basically INI files that can be edited? Actually, they're TXT files that can be edited. Yes, they are. They're all TXT files. You can edit them all with Notepad. Be very careful because you can screw them up real easily. But yes, you can do that. I've done it. That's interesting what can be done there. For the most part, you don't need to, but if you want to, knock yourself out. It's not a problem. So you can use whatever you want. Can you please give more information on frequency sweeps? Well, frequency sweeps are, here, I want you to run from frequency A to frequency Z. And it runs every frequency in there in between, and there's some sort of I don't know where that is. There's some sort of percentage. It increases the whole time. In the, what's that? See, where? And let me go look at my screen real quick. Here in presets, if we go into, there's actually frequency sweeps there. And so these are various ones over there. This is actually a cancer sweep, I think. See if you look over here, inferior, yeah. So, these are sweeps. There's also, and there's some remote sweeps. There's actually, there's a new version of some of these things, the Mega Wobble, which is really an interesting sweep. These are you need to go take a look at that are in here. I can't talk about each one of these at this point. That's not what I'm here for, but those are sweeps are. They go, so the intent, and I've done some, actually, if there's a new version of this, of the Mega Wallow, and if you send me an email, I can send you the PDF file, or I can tell you how to download it from the cancer clinic site to install it in your spooky stuff. But there's a PDF in it that talks about what these things are and how to run them and all that sort of stuff. The guy who wrote these, Stu Tooley, his view of life is that don't mess around with trying to figure out what you do, just kill everything. And that's what this is. Kill everything has its own set of downsides, in my opinion, but that's just the way I see it. Okay, so let's go back to, actually, get down there. All right, so that was that. Okay, now, Cynthia, what is a jab? A jab was slang for a COVID vaccine. That's a jab. So hopefully that answers that. Desmond, answer now. Does a plasma or scalar help with thyroid problems? Yes, I believe it does. You can, obviously, you can, like it does, it can help with kidney problems, whatever. The plasma is exceptional at killing, and it's pretty good at healing. And so the example I use from that is, suppose, you've lived this riotous life and your kidneys are just giving out on you. There's nothing, there's no virus or whatever killing them. They're just worn out. But there are programs to help improve your kidney function. That's a healing one. And so thyroid is the same one. There's stuff for that. Like I said, I think the scalar would help with that. I like the plasma better. If you have both, then use either one you want. But I think the plasma is more versatile. If you don't have either one, I'd start with the plasma. I wish I could pronounce your name, Serene Vos. I can't. Sorry. Why do you need more generators? One should be enough. No, one is never enough. Okay, on my generators in here. Okay, and like I say, I have 13. I have one of them that I'm doing imprinting water for my wife, that for healing stuff and oxygenizing and all that sort of stuff. I have I have 3 of them that are running remote stuff for relatives and friends. I have a couple that are running for my wife's issues, and then I have several others that are doing imprinting of stickers, and I have one that I've used for imprinting oil for paint. Those are the 13 here. That's why I have all those. So now one is never enough. And if you had cancer, for instance, I mean, cancer, the more the merrier. I mean, really, the bare minimum to treat cancer is 2, and that's really not enough. You should have at least 3. I mean, it all depends what you're trying to do. But it's good to start with one, because you'll see all the different things you can do with it. And so starting with one, there's no problem. One of the nice things about Spooky is there is no obsolescence. If I buy this, I have to throw it away when I want to get something better. Doesn't work that way. You just keep adding on. Yeah. Think of it as Lego toys. So you just keep adding them on. So that's one of the big advantages. If all you can afford is start with one, start with one. Okay, and I have severe backpack. I assume that's back pain, and can only use the 10 pads. I need to increase the voltage or amplitude because these frequencies aren't strong enough. How do I do it? Okay, it depends. It depends, and on what you're using for a preset. What I can show you briefly, but I can't get into the details of it, is when you open, is that? So if we go into a contact mode shell, and let's go to a healing contact. Okay, this is contact. If you go into settings, settings is where the amplitude is set, and the default, that is the maximum, is 20. Now, if you have a boost on there, then you'll get 40, but you can't go any higher than that. It won't go any higher than that. It's just all there is. And so the default is maxed anyway. So that's the best I can offer for that. I don't know what else I can tell you on that. You can send me an email and we can discuss it. Maybe I'll have some ideas then. Q&A. Okay. Yeah, back pain. That's what I thought. Amanda, you said people are on sweeps overnight. Usually, what are frequency sweeps instead of other things? There's actually frequency sweeps in the DB stuff. So, or in the cancer stuff. There's sweeps that are intended to run overnight, and that's what they are. I want to run all the frequencies from X to Y and that sort of stuff. And so It's a philosophical thing is what it boils down to. If I'm running a DB or DH preset, I'm running 5, 10, 20 frequencies. That's all I'm running, and they're very specific. And those are there because researchers would have figured out, yep, these frequencies really help with this condition. But there is the other philosophy. Look, especially for killing, I'm going to run every frequency that Royal Life found, or whoever found, which really starts at about 80,000 hertz, all the way up to 1.9 megahertz, and that represents all the pathogens around. I'm going to try to kill everything. So it's a philosophical thing. That's the best way to put that for sweeps. Desmond, between the tube ball and tube, the tube is an even distribution of the energy field. The ball is concentrated, and the outermost no, actually what happens is, and I don't have a good picture of it. The Fanatron, the ball one, there's two plates in it, okay? And the energy and everything gets created between the plates. However, one of the plates is straight like this, and the other one's at a 45-degree angle. And the intent of that is to focus the energy on the 45-degree. So it's actually one area, so that's the area that you should be against your skin with the 45-degree pointing at you. So you have a wire coming off each one, and one is at a 45-degree angle. That's how it does the concentration. So that's what it does. Peggy, I may have the opportunity to treat a dog with lymphoma. Sarcoma. How do you think that would? How long? There's no way to know that, Peggy. I wish there was. Certainly, if it's not your dog, I'd be looking at the cancer stuff, the cancer presets and all that, and try to find something that's only an hour or two and whatever, and get the dog to come over at least 3 times a week and zap them, put the plasma next to them. That's what I would do for that. Lynn, what is the replacement cord said to order for generator errors? Oh, that is a USB cable with filters in it. I can't, let's see, can I do that? Hang on a second. Let me see if I can, let's see here. Let me see if I can patch that into the chat. It's probably the easiest way. Let me go find it. Frequencies, hang on a second. See. And okay, so that's the link for the cable. And it's about $10-ish from Amazon US. And you can get it from other Amazons, but some of them take a long time. But if you can't find it, I actually have some other ones that I've looked up at Amazon Australia and that sort of stuff. But specifically this brand of cable, and specifically with the ferrite chokes. That's what I would recommend. Okay, so replacement cord. All right. What's the deal with EMFs? The EMFs are very low. Don't worry about that. It's not a problem, and it's actually pretty low frequency as well. Most of the EMF stuff you worry about is like from cell phones and company that are 2, 4, 5, 8 gigahertz, way up there in frequencies. The plasma only can put out to about 4 megahertz, which is pretty small. So it's not a big deal from an EMF point of view. James, if I do the Faraday channel plasma wires, oh, thank you. I'd really like to know what that does. And see, and try to find a preset that causes a plasma, causes a generator, and then put them on and see if it helps. That's because otherwise it's like, well, I put them on, I'm not getting any more. Were you getting them before? Well, no. Then did it fix it? So yeah, see if you can find a specific preset that causes problems, and then don't move anything except put the stuff on. I'd really like to know. Okay, Rick, how do you attach a sticker to your body? Reflective side in? No, actually, what I do for me is these are the stickers stick on. I peel them off and stick them on my skin. Some people are sensitive to that. That's okay. If you're sensitive to that, you don't stick them on that way. Hold them on with a Band-Aid. Actually, that's what my neighbor does because the sticker one will last for will last for several days, depending on your situation. She uses hers for several weeks, and she just holds them on with a Band-Aid or a piece of medical tape. That's what she does. So, all right, so that takes care of that. So that's what I would do. And so I don't, you can certainly put the shiny side down if you're going to hold them on with something else, but I'm lazy, so I just peel them off and stick them to me. Chris, is the strength of the scalar field stronger in spooky scalar versus the scalar field in real? Oh, absolutely. It's a lot stronger in the spooky scalar. Would you be able to use the larger the spooky scalar to charge frequency larger constant? Well, actually, what you can do is you can use the on the transmitter coil, you can put stickers on there or anything on there, and you can imprint on the transmitter coil of the scalar. I haven't done it, and mainly because I'm a creature of habit, and I know using the remote works. I only do 4 at a time, but I mean, it takes me an hour or 2 to do 4. I mean, I can do a whole bunch of them in a couple of days if that's what I want to do. You know, I'm not manufacturing them, is what it boils down to. But you can do those on the transmitter coil of the scalar if you want to try more. Okay, Jenny. Plasma good to treat hypothyroid? Yes, I would use the plasma to treat hypothyroid. That's good for most things, in my opinion. I think it's a very versatile and very powerful piece of equipment. Alan, how many people have died here in New Zealand from poison jab? Don't have, that's beyond what I can answer, that's for sure. I can't answer that. I don't know, Alan, how many people have died from the jab. It depends on who you talk to. If you talk to the government, no one has. Sorry, that was a political statement. I apologize. Let's see. A vet more. Let's see. What's the benefit of imprinting frequencies on high frequency stickers as opposed to regular stickers? Well, you can't imprint regular stickers. You have to have the holographic stuff. That's what takes the imprint. It has to be a crystalline structure. Anything with a crystalline structure, you can imprint frequencies on. If you're just running like the little white paper things that we get that we put fingernails in, you can't really imprint those. So that's the difference. Stacy, there are many cervical cancer programs. Do I load them all into one shell, make one preset, and treat all together, or do I have to run one at a time and work my way through them? That's an interesting question. Here's what I would do with that. I would use I'd use the biofeedback stuff with the contact mode, and I would take all those together and I would run a grade scan on them. What grade scan does is you put in a bunch of programs, and when you do biofeedback, it says, I'm going to go from whatever it is, 80,000 hertz to 1.8 megahertz, or no, it's 41,000. I'm going to scan all the frequencies there and try to find stuff to kill. That's what it does. And it gives you the 10 frequencies that were the most responsive. A grade scan, what it does is it's going to do a scan, but what you do is you put all the programs in you want, and it just scans the frequencies in those programs. That's what I would do for you. And I'd probably pick the top 20 out of it. So if you don't understand that, there's videos on how to do grade scan. If that still doesn't work, then let me know and I'll help you do that. Desmond again. Hi, Desmond. How are you? I have a grandson named Desmond. Sorry, I messed up. I took a step out. Don't have to go into dealing. I don't know what that means. Okay. Myrtle. How many stickers in each remote for imprinting? How long do they last? I only do 4 at a time. They last essentially forever if you don't use them, and you keep them away from magnets and sunlight. But like for my neighbor who does use them, she uses them for at least 2 weeks. She'll just put them on and leave them on for 2 weeks. And then she'll get new ones. I mean, for me, when I'm using them, they stay on until the silver on them wears off. So that's what I do. They and they don't, like I said, they only cost, I get 1,000 for $10. So I really don't care if they last 3 days. Doesn't matter to me. It's not a big deal. So and I have at any time I probably have 20 different ones that I've done. I actually took somebody through one time making stickers for their migraine headaches, and it made a huge difference. So you can do all kinds of them. Okay, James, haven't started using hardware yet, just received a machine recently, but I can put a Faraday shield and let you know if I do it, generate errors. Yep, half all is better than none. Yep, I'd love to know. I would love to know how well that works. And Alan, which is my last Q&A, I'm not, what's the benefit of scalar kit as opposed to scalar 5? Oh, there's a huge difference there. Okay, so here's the deal. The scalar kit, its intention in life is so you can drive the scaler using the GX generator, and you can do biofeedback. Okay, what you can't do with it is it doesn't come with any remotes, so you can't do any remote treatments. It doesn't come with any TENS pads, so you can't do that stuff. It's an interesting device. I know people who have bought it, and they couldn't do what they wanted with it. Um, if you want to use both of them, my recommendation is to get a GX essentials kit that has everything you need to use the GX, and then add a scaler to that. That's what I would do. The scaler kit, I believe, is missing a lot of good stuff, but its purpose in life was just to use the scaler, not to do all the other things you can do with Spooky. So that's the difference. Hopefully I won't get in trouble for that. Let's see. Peggy, what's the secret to getting the Honkus to stay on you? Well, I mean, mine just stay on. If you have oily skin, that's an issue, but you can probably wipe off the oil with some alcohol and handle it that way. So that's and like I said, if they won't stay on, you can hold them on with Band-Aid or medical tape. Alan, thanks. Desmond, I messed up your answer. I was a ball and tube. Field. I missed your answer probably. In regards to the ball and the tube energy field increasing the near field distance. Well, generally the near field is considered within 6 inches of your skin. That's generally what it is, and that's where the most of the power is. If you go outside of that, the further away you get, the less power it has, and pretty much in the same ish room, sort of. It's effective, but not nearly as effective. That's the best I can do for you. W. Hawkins. I have a Gen X with 4 generators and Spooky Central. I stopped using due to error. That is so it sounds like you're getting generator errors. So first thing you do is replace that cable that goes to the generator that's driving the central. If that doesn't fix it, email me and we'll figure out what's wrong. Anonymous. Any rejuvenation problems in the central? Well, there's rejuvenation problems in the Spooky software. So yes, you could do searches on that stuff. There's some really nice ones in the David Halliday experimental presets. That's what it's one of the go-to things I have. You can actually install that from the spooky2.com downloads page, and it actually puts them directly into your presets tab. Those are the DH experimental presets. They're really cool, and I always install them on anybody's computer I help with because they're so fascinating. Okay, so there we are now. So I'll come back to questions in a minute. Let me close this. Let me go back to, let's go back to, I'll come back to your questions in a minute. So what I want to show you, this is some Q&A, and so in here, I'll wrap up, yeah. So in here, and remember, if you want to copy the presentation, send me a request, and I'll send you the PDF of all this stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff in here that I have for references. This is my YouTube page. Vimeo is a great place now for spooky videos. They're all there. It's improved a lot. The Spooky2 Academy, that's where you find out all the upcoming events and where to sign up for them. And you can get to the previous done videos as well. Spooky2 videos, that's okay, but some of them are really old. It's really neat. You watch those things, it's like, huh, how come my machine doesn't look like that? Grain of salt. How come I have, oh, this is Spooky Wife videos. That was their old YouTube channel. That's okay. The user's guide. You should actually look at the user guide. To help pull down the Spooky2 software, click on user's guide. It goes through almost everything we've done here. The quick start guide is actually in the Spooky2 directory. Hang on a second. What else do we have here? Windows Update Block. I use this on all my machines. One of the things we don't like is we don't like it when Microsoft puts out a change and it wipes out, makes your computer reboot. This is freeware that will actually stop it. It works really well. Here's my holographic stickers. Here's the USB cable. Here's a USB hub if you don't have one. That works pretty well. You can get that from Amazon. And here's a battery backup. Those come in handy if you get these quick power glitches, because when you get those, that turns off your generators. And so you have to come restart everything or whatever you're gonna do. Okay, so this one's still 195. Let me go look at the chat. See if there's anything interesting in there. Oh, I hope this really helped you. I work hard at trying to make these aimed at people who are not technical. So hopefully it wasn't too boring for the people that weren't. Um, that let's see, you can imprint silver or gold crystal jewelry. Yes, that's a lot of people do that. They imprint their jewelry and they wear that stuff. I've played with this stuff, but I've had so much good luck with the stickers. I don't do that. By the way, for your pets, you can make stickers for whatever they have and stick it to the inside of their collar. That works really well. Um, I know some people put holographic stickers on things and put them in their pocket, and that's fine. But for me, the reason I don't do that is I like to make stickers for a point of whatever. So if if my knee hurts, I stick it on my knee. If I have a headache, it goes on there. I actually had a sinus infection 6 months ago that didn't want to go away. I made some infection stickers. I actually stuck them on my face right here, and I didn't go anywhere that day. And the next day, no more sinus infection. So I like them for that. So that I don't, I actually have some things that I can put in my pocket and stuff, but I'm just not all that happy with those. I just don't do it. I've been so happy with stickers. How long is the effectiveness of the holographic paper? They depend on your point of view, but I believe they're good for at least a few months. Can you share the migraine sticker, please? I'll have to look for it. If you send me an email, I can send you the file for that. And if you need to, I have a quick video that says, "Oh, I got this file from somebody. How do I get it into Spooky?" Because a lot of people don't know that. USB hub, yes. I like the Anchor ones at Amazon. Tammy said Spooky sells one. Yes, they do. And it is okay, but it comes from China, and it's a decent USB hub, but you have to deal with shipping and time and all that sort of stuff. Now, most people in the US or wherever you are can order one from Amazon and have it in a day or two. That's the reason I did that. So connecting tubes, essential units. No, it was in there. I did show you how to do that. That was actually in the video that I said. So if you can't remember how to do it, the white wires, they go into the back of the central and they just push them in all the way. And make sure it's turned off when you do it. Can you run 3 generators for cancer? Yes, you can. 2 for programs and 1 for detox. That's a good idea. Yes, that's a really good idea. That's actually one of the part of the cancer DB protocols doing that. PayPal. Zara points out, yes, for questions, send an email to them. Yes, that works very well. Pretty good about it. If there's anything else I want to answer in here. Yes, I haven't considered. What crystals are best for hologram? Yeah, that's a good question. Janet, I don't know. Any crystals will work. I don't know if there is a best for holographic imprint. It just has to be a crystalline structure. So I don't think it has to be anything special for that, as far as I know. And anonymous, why does FDA not go after Spooky? Okay. Spooky is an experimental device, and there's no guarantees it'll cure anything, actually. A lot of people say it does, and that's why there's 82,000 users in the Facebook page. And whether, basically your mileage may vary. It's certainly, we have a cancer protocol here, do this, and we believe it'll help with your cancer, but there's no guarantees for that. That's the best I can answer for that one. Let's see. Let's see if there's anything else I can. I've heard that letting stickers come in contact with electronic device can erase them, expose the sun. Yes, sun definitely will do it. The electronic device problem really is because of the magnetism. A lot of electronic stuff put out all kinds of magnetic stuff, and that'll wipe the sticker. So you have to be careful of that. Okay, so are there any more questions? If there are, we need to put them in the Q&A, because I've only gone back about halfway in the chat. Let's see. I'm using plasma for mold and slime. Yes, I know people that do that. How long is coupon good for? I think 30 days. I think for 30 days. Okay. Are there any other questions that bunch of messages, people saying, thank you, Sarah. Oh, yeah, that's right. You get a free set of tens pads too, with my 5%. I appreciate it, Sherry. Again, my email, spookytechhelp@gmail.com. I answer that within a day. And I actually do live help for people that really need it. That's not a problem. That was not a, oh, I'm just saying that. It doesn't work that way. I actually care about that. It makes a big difference to me. Okay. Thank you, Zara, for putting that in. Okay, guys, if that's it, then I think we're done, Zara. Imprint and headband. Contact me for any imprint stuff. Zara and I actually need to set up a formal imprint session, I think, because it's a very popular thing. And while I have something, I'd love to do it again. Thank you, Janet. Good point. Turkey Day is coming up for those of us in the United States. My Canadian friends have already had it. Okay, think we're done. All right, I look forward to hearing from people if you need help. All right, thanks a lot. Talk to you guys later.